Flights are pricey, planning feels chaotic, and that family trip keeps getting pushed. I hear it every day from business owners and busy professionals, and I felt it too. I'm Ross, the founder of Itinerary Boss and your host. After 10 plus years of planning work and personal trips to over 20 countries, I became the guy who found the deals and turned points into upgrades. This show helps you turn everyday business and personal spend into points and miles for premium travel. Each week, you'll get step by step tactics and short episodes, plus expert guests with specific use cases tied to your most asked questions for travel plans that'll help support your business, goals, and your life. Go ahead and grab the free points and miles cheat sheet in the show notes to speed up your learning. And now, on with the show. Welcome back to another episode of World Travel Made Easy. On this week's episode, I'm excited to have Julian Keel. He is the founder and CEO of PointsPath. Really excited to have you on the show today, Julian. How are you doing?
I'm good, Russ. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, of course. Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. I know you're connected with a couple of our other guests, and I've heard you on a couple other podcasts and love what you guys are doing at PointsPath. And for my audience, it's a great tool that they're always asking, hey, I got all these points and miles. How do I redeem them? So definitely want to bring you on so you can share what you guys going on, but don't want to sell you short. Could you give us just a little bit about your background? How'd you find PointsPath and all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, you're 100% right. That is the problem that everyone has, right? They have all these rewards and they don't know how to use them effectively. And that's really the problem I have been focusing on really for 15 years. Well, before I created PointsPath, I was a writer in the space, and I was the editorial director over at the Points Guy site that I'm sure you and a lot of your audience knows. I was moved over to CNN to do their travel rewards coverage for their e-commerce vertical called CNN Underscored, and I built that up from scratch. But through all of it, it always comes back to that same issue: is how do you use? Basically, everyone has two problems. I can't find flights I want to use my points with, and even when I do, I can't figure out if I'm getting a good deal, right? That or if I'm getting screwed. That's the problem everybody has. So when you're working at the Points Guy and CNN and all these places, you're trying to solve that problem through education, right? Through writing about it, which is great. But the problem is a lot of people don't have the time to dig through all those stories on a website or a blog. And they say, well, just can you give me the answer in 5 seconds? That's what PointsPath is designed to do.
Yeah, no, and of course, obviously, with your background doing it for a while and being at the top places in the space, you were getting to uncover, like you said, those problems and then just building that solution for people. And I agree. Some people really like to read. For me, it's like, hey, how do I get on video and exactly what we're going to do today and watch and just make it simple? And what's that quick, just experience that isn't going to be having to go all in depth right off the bat, because I think a lot of people get into this, and what I hear most is I was too overwhelmed, right? When I looked at all these credit cards, I didn't know about annual fees, and then when you just break it down, it's like 3 minutes. I go, oh, that's simple. But it again, it's there's just so much information, and if you're not in the space and do this a lot and go down the rabbit hole and right make all the mistakes that everyone's made, that's where having something like PointsPath is going to be really helpful.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it's complicated somewhat on purpose, right?
yep.
Because there's a lot of different programs, a lot of airlines, a lot of banks, and they all have their own little, system, and they all have their own little quirks. And frankly, they are not trying to explain to you how much value you're getting for various redemptions. In fact, if anything, they prefer you take the lower value redemptions because it means more money for them, more net profit for them. So you really do need to find a way to either educate yourself or use technology to do it for you.
Exactly, exactly. What was the exact moment that made you just decide, hey, you know what? Like I've done this for 15 years, but I need to create this solution for people.
I was actually working with a venture capital firm who was interested in this space. And it was through the back and forth with them that I really did land on. There were two pieces to it. One was the idea of having a platform that would aggregate the points values for different flights in live time, in real time, live data. and also show you the value versus the cash price for those fares. And then the second iteration of that, which is what PointsPath is today, was simply doing that right on top of Google Flights. Since so many people already use Google Flights, our research shows it is the number one first place that people go to search for flights, to do that preliminary search, to be able to put those points values right on top of that experience that you already are used to doing. You don't have to change people's habits. They don't have to remember to go to another website. I know if you're like me, you have 100 websites bookmarked in your browser saying, oh, that's really cool. I need to use that the next time. And then you don't remember, you forget, and you never use them. It's very hard to get people to change their habits by running on top of Google Flights. You don't have to change your habits at all. You can keep using the site that you've been used to use searching for flights.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. And again, it like you said, you just make it simple. You're not changing people's habits. And I think that's the one thing if someone is they are trying to redeem their points, they are accumulating this, they're just getting into the space, like that's such an easy lift where they can say, "Oh, okay, this is how much it is in cash, this is how much it is in points. This is a good deal." And you're going to go in and show exactly how to do that, but that just makes it simple, and then that helps people right into their points and miles journey, right? And then you guys are looked at as the hero, and you've created an awesome.
We don't even need to be the hero if we can help people get a better redemption or get a flight home. I also like to say, there are lots of great sites out there that can show you how to go around the world or fly in, first class to Asia or whatever it is. And we can do that too, to some degree, but we're really focused more on the people who say, I just want to get home for Thanksgiving and I don't want to pay $800 for the ticket just to get to see my family. Can I do this with points and miles? And doesn't make sense. That's really the audience we're trying to get to.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's going to be the majority of people who are already
Right.
spending if they are business owners, if they have families. And I had Robin Sachs Franco come on, and she just talked about, hey, I wanted to take a quick break to say thank you so much for tuning into the show. The only way the show grows is through listeners like you helping us share it. So if you're enjoying the show, it'd mean the world to me if you hit that 5-star rating, shared it with a friend or family member who's ready to travel more, save money, or just needs a little bit more inspiration and that nudge. And if you're posting about it on Instagram, go ahead and tag Itinerary Boss, and we'll make sure to reshare it and shout you out for giving us a shout out. Thanks so much for the support. It truly means a lot. And now back with the show. How to make it attainable, right? Working a full-time job, having kids, like what are ways where if you aren't a business owner, right, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, accumulating millions of points, right? If you have that one family vacation, then you have to get different places domestically. Like, how do you make that attainable versus aspirational when you have a lot of flexibility and you can fly on those off-peak dates? So I absolutely love that. But let's go ahead and let's fire it up so people can see, right, exactly what they can do with PointsPath and just, what some of the capabilities are.
Yeah, and let me also just explain so that people know if you're not familiar with this already, and many of you may not. PointsPath is a browser extension. If most people are familiar with a browser extension, it's a plugin that you install into your browser. We work in either Google Chrome or Apple Safari browsers. We also are working Microsoft Edge. The only major one we're not in yet is Firefox, and we're working on it. But you are basically putting in extra functionality on your browser. The way you install PointsPath is very simple. You go to pointspath.com. There's a very big button right at the top of the screen that says download the free extension. You click on that, and it takes you to the Google Web Store. I guess I should probably just be showing this, right? Rather than talking about it. Let me fire it up as you said. Here we go. I'm going to share my screen so folks can see. Here you are. We've got, this is pointspath.com. As you can see, we've got this big download the free extension button. When you click that, it'll tell you, hey, we see that you're in a Chrome browser, or we see you're in a Safari browser. So we're going to take you to the correct plugin. And then you say, yes, I'm in Chrome. So this takes you now to the Google Web Store, where I already have it installed. So it says remove from Chrome. But if you didn't have it installed, that blue button in the right, upper right would say add to Chrome. So you'd click that and it would say, okay, do you want to confirm that you want to install it? Yes. And you're off and running. You don't have to make an account to use PointsPath to start. If you just want to try it out, it is free. I should also mention that. I always forget that part. It's free, by the way. Costs absolutely nothing to use the basic extension. And in any case, you don't even have to create an account to start. you can simply then go to Google Flights, which here I am on Google Flights. I always tell people, and I imagine you do too, Ross, when you're looking for points fares, I always say search one way at a time because I
Hmm.
think you're more likely to be able to piece that trip together yourself. PointsBet does work though both ways, round trip and one way at a time. So, but for this example, I'll just use it one way. So I've got New York here, I've got Chicago here. I don't like basic economy fares. I don't know if you know this. Google just added the ability to filter
Hmm.
out basic economy, so I'm going to turn that off. And let's go. Let's say we're going to go around Halloween, so we'll go on October 31st from New York to Chicago, and I'm going to hit search. And as you may already, I'm sure you're familiar with what Google Flights looks like. They're giving you the whole list of options with the cash prices. And then, as you probably already saw, in the time I've been talking, it already finished. PointsPath loaded in all the points prices for all these flights. So you can see we've got 7,700 miles on United for some United flights, 8,400 miles for Delta. Here's some American flights. Now this is the really cool part of it. Actually, there's two really cool parts of it. First of all, we've got this arrow in between the cash price and the points price that's telling you which is the better deal. So if points is a better value than cash, we've got a blue arrow that says good deal or great deal pointing towards the points. And if cash is a better deal, then we've got a gray arrow pointing towards the cash. And in some cases, we might say use either where it's roughly the same value. That's one thing. The other cool thing, though, is that if there are partners, so again, as people may know, the main U.S. airline programs partner with other airlines such as American with British Airways, United with Lufthansa, whatever it might be. If there are partner flights available with these programs, they will also show up. And that means sometimes you might have multiple programs available for the same flight. And here's an example right here. This 7:41 p.m. flight on American is available with both American miles and Alaska miles because Alaska and American partner. We are seeing that PointsPath is showing you that 4,500 Alaska miles is in fact the best deal. It is a great deal. But if you wanted to see the American price as well, you see there it says Alaska plus one other. We just click on that and we get a little pop-up that shows you that here's the Alaska price with 4,500 miles. Here's the American price, 10,000 American miles. We've also got the transfer partners in there. So, if you have a Citi card, you can now transfer to American. If you've got a Bilt card, you can transfer those points to Alaska. We've got the taxes and fees in there for this flight. So it's all right there, and it's all right in Google Flights, and it's literally that's how it works.
That's awesome. And I think what I love too is you make it very simple where, because I think a lot of people, the first thing like, okay, they go, Ross, I have all these points from this bank and this and this. And we create a free cheat sheet where it's, hey, it has the transfer partners, but if someone, if they have that sheet, but they're like, hey, I don't want to have to go to this screen and I want to have to do this and try to remember that. This is just right there. And it just makes it like, again, keeping it simple, not changing habits, I think is the name of the game, which is great.
Yep, no, that's exactly right. It comes back to what we said at the beginning, which is a lot of people, they do want to know, like they want this information, but everyone has so little time, and it takes a
Hmm.
lot of time to really dig into it and learn it. So we're trying to just give you that information right up front where you don't have to go chase it. You get all the information you need about this particular trip right here in Google Flights, and then you can make your decision from there.
Okay. Okay. Very cool. What about some of the other transfer partners? So if we're in the One World Alliance, if someone's, and I always just like to break it down to keep it simple. We're in
hmm
Charlotte. A lot of people always ask, hey, how can I use, these different miles on some of these other partners? So like, Charlotte on American, if it's a United hub and you have Star Alliance, or, so I have a client who's in Minneapolis and they're Sky Miles. So like, how does that, if they're looking for some of those other maybe better redemption awards.
hmm
Is that
hmm
possible?
Yes. So there's a couple of different pieces to that question. First of all, if you're talking about, well, let me start with this. The free version of PointsPath has the five major US frequent flyer programs: American, United, Delta, JetBlue, and Alaska. Those are all included for free. Everything that I just described is all in the free extension. If you want more airline programs, our pro tier, which is a paid tier, then adds Virgin Atlantic, Virgin Australia, Qantas, Air Canada. So it adds some of those other programs that you might use for some of those, other transfer redemptions. But even with the free extension, if you're looking here, let's see. Let me find a good one. This is Charlotte to London, but
Hmm.
Charlotte to London, Google is basically coming up with Delta options, American options, that sort of thing. And by the way, you are seeing here this,
Hmm.
for those of you, I'm describing it for those who are listening and not watching. There's an American flight here that is available one way, Charlotte to London in economy, 27,000 miles. But it does show that there's one other option. And again, I click on that, and that gives me the Alaska option there, 27,500 more. But if you've got Bilt points or Alaska miles instead of American miles or Citi points, then that could make sense for you. But beyond that, let me do a search, for instance. Let me try New York to London, where we're more likely to see, say, a British Airways flight,
Hmm.
and see if we might be able to find some availability on that with, say, American miles. Let's see. It's loading. Here is you've got just describing this search for those who can't see it. You've got some JetBlue flights here. You've got one stops. You've got round trips. I'm not seeing too much availability this time around on. Here's a good example, actually, though. I don't have anything on British Airways with American miles, but I do have a Virgin Atlantic flight with Delta miles. And here you go, two Virgin Atlantic flights from New York to London in economy, 30,000 miles nonstop, Delta miles for a Virgin flight. So there is an example of how those partners can
Hmm.
be leveraged to get where you want to go, maybe even on a different airline, but using the points or miles you have. Again, we click on that, we see that American Express transfers to Delta, so you could use Amex. You could use Amex points to transfer to Delta to book this Virgin flight if you wanted.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you clarifying that because I think a lot of people, if they're watching, they'll see right under Delta, those different partners pop up. Same thing with United. And like when I first, got into this 10 years ago, I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm confused. Which flight is it, right? But I think once you
Hmm.
realize the power of transfer partners and having the right credit card rewards, and if you don't have, because sometimes, for example, like I was using Charlotte as a use case, it's sometimes harder to earn American miles if you're not using different strategies like the A Advantage shopping portal, right? The Basque Bank, just and you're not flying a lot and spending money. So for us, we have a stash of Capital One miles that we'll use. We have Ultimate Rewards that will sometimes transfer to British Airways or Qantas if we have a flight that it's similar. But that's understanding that is super helpful. But I
Hmm.
think that what about for the free version, how far out in advance can you search flights? And then what about pro version?
Yeah, so actually for both versions, you're not limited. It's
Okay.
however far out Google goes. So Google generally goes a little less than a year out. It's about 330 days, something like that. So here's July 1st, 2026. The only limit for us would be if a program has not yet loaded their
Mhm.
fares for that far out. But typically they all run about little less than a year out. And you can see I just did this search on July 1st. We're seeing Delta availability on Virgin Atlantic. This is July 1st of next year. So almost a year out. I see United flights. So, I see American, they have loaded their fares. And so you're seeing that already. Round trip, same thing. You're not limited by the calendar. And also, let me point out with round trip, we are doing a true round trip search, meaning that we're not taking two one ways and pasting them together, which some other sites do. We do the full round trip search because sometimes a program like Delta might charge you fewer miles for book and round trip than they will if you do it one way at a time. At the very least, they'll probably charge you a different amount of tax if you book it one way at a time. So we offer that as well. If you flip Google Flights into round trip, as you can see, now we've got the round trip prices here all lined up with the cash prices. That also, when it comes to international, is important to look at it round trip because the cash prices are so
Mhm.
different with a round trip international fare than they are with a one ways. And then one last thing. If you got a lot of miles and you want to look at this in business class, we do that too. So here it is. All I had to do was flip Google Flights into business. This is again the same round trip search I did a moment ago. The prices are obviously a heck of a lot higher. You're looking at about 300,000 miles round trip on United. I see 450 thousand Delta miles. You're going to pay a lot of miles for this, but that option is available in PointsBath as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I think and that's for round trip with business. Okay, so that's why
Correct.
I was like,
Yep.
man, those are super high. If you were to do
Yeah.
one way, they obviously would drop a little bit.
They would drop
Okay.
probably by about half. Here you go.
Yeah.
Here's one way. Yeah. Now you're, and look, also this far out, you're probably going to see some pretty high fare. So
Hmm.
remember, this is July 1st, 2026. This is right in the middle of the season for Europe.
Yeah.
So trying to find a good deal in business class in summer 2026 with points and miles is going to be tough. Even so, some of these are indicating that they are a great deal. Now, that's partially because, again, we're looking one way at a time right now. And that cash fare is insane.
That's
Trying to
crazy.
book one way at a time, it's coming up at $11,000, which that's because of business travelers going
Yeah.
one way at a time.
Yeah.
So it probably isn't really a great deal if you look at it round trip, but one way it is.
Yeah, that's why we're all about if you have the flexibility and can travel around shoulder season, that's where
Hmm.
you can go. If you can take a positioning flight somewhere and search for a bigger hub, that's another strategy that, if you're flying out, we're in a hub in Charlotte and you in New York, but if you're flying from Alabama, right, and you search direct flights to somewhere in Europe, it's going to be a little bit tougher to find.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, like any search engine, to piece it together, you're going to want to do a little, like you said, like looking for hubs and trying to figure out what's the best availability in each one. But with this, it's very fast, right? As we've been talking, each time this is loaded in 5, maybe 7 seconds tops, so you can go through it really, really quickly. We don't cache any fares at all. You're getting live pricing each time, except within a few minutes. If you just searched it, we'll show you the price you just got, just for speed, so you don't have to wait that 5 or 7 seconds. But generally, you are seeing live pricing. We are doing these searches at the exact same time you are.
Okay, cool. And if they have loyalty, let's say they're booking at one of the big five and they're just using the free version. If they have, right, they have their United, they fly there a lot on work and they would also book directly with it. So they can get those, right, additional miles. And also they're not having to worry about going through an OTA and booking third party. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually, let's talk about that for a second. So, first of all, if you did say you were a United flyer and you had United miles, so you only want to see United options, or more to the point, you'd probably want to see Star Alliance options
Hmm.
since we're looking at a London flight because United is part of the Star Alliance. Then you can simply use Google Flights' own filters here in airlines and say, only show me Star Alliance flights. And then you're only going to get the Star Alliance flights, of course. Here they are. Let me switch back to economy just so we can see a few more options. At that point, then, if you wanted to book one of these, you can, if you wanted to book with points or cash, you can go to united.com and book it. But we make it a little easier for you. All you have to do is, like, let's take a look at this United flight here, is just click on it. Google will give you the direct, Google's taking a few seconds here. Here it is. Google will give you the direct cash booking links. So if you click on one of these, it'll take you to United to book with cash. We add the one with points. So if I click on this, it'll take me to United. United will ask me to sign in because I need to sign in to use my miles, and we'll take you right to that same search on united.com. So again, with miles, you have to book direct. You can't use an
Hmm.
OTA, but we've made it so easy that you don't even have to go do the search again yourself.
Okay. Okay. That is very helpful there's probably people who, right, they fly a lot domestically. They want to start flying internationally. Like,
Mhm.
who would you recommend the pro version would be better for versus the free version?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different people who would like the pro version. One is if you have bank points that transfer, right? Because it is, as you talked about earlier, those transfer programs that can really show you a lot of value. And you may very much find that a flight available with both United and Air Canada miles will be a better deal with Air Canada miles. But if you don't have them, you need to transfer them. And Air Canada is a transfer partner with almost all of the major programs. So if you've got a lot of flexible bank points, the Pro version can be very helpful for you. The other thing is the Pro version has lots of other features. Let me actually see if I can hold on a second. Let me log in with my Pro account here and see if I can give a little demo of some of those extra other features you might find in Pro. Hold on here.
Cool.
But basically, yeah, if you are looking for more the ability to be more flexible, basically, and I don't even mean necessarily with dates, though it can be with dates, but just flexible in general. And here I'll show you what I mean by that. Here is I'm going to reshare my screen again. I'm now logged in with my Pro account. Hold on a second. Let me get the share button here. Here we go. All right. So here now I'm in the same exact search, but with my Pro account. And hold on a second. Let me find one that's got some availability here. Let's see. I'm looking for an option. Let me back up a few dates. Looking for an option that might have some extra partners that we can see, or maybe even it might be better to now get back a little closer in than July 1st, where there might be some more availability. Let's go back to, let's try September 15th and see what we get here. All right. And let me take off the United the filters as well. Here we go. I can see it's already loading.
There you go.
Yep. Let me just give it a few seconds here to load. So one of the features we have, let me mention since I see it right now, if you have in Pro, if you have a Delta American Express card, you can see with that card, you get 15% off all Delta flights when you book with miles. We show you that price if you want to turn that on. So you can see here, this Delta flight, we're showing the Delta 15% off option. So if you have Amex card, you can do that. If you don't have an Amex card, by the way, you can certainly easily turn that off. You just come over here, turn it back off, and now you're seeing the regular Delta pricing again. But also on that flight, you now got Delta plus one others because we're now in Pro, because that Delta flight is available with Virgin Atlantic miles, which transfer from, as you can see on our pop-up here, Amex, Bilt, Capital One, Chase, Citi, Wells Fargo. So any of those programs, you could transfer just 10,000 points and get this Delta flight. Here's another, and then here it is the other way around, where the Virgin Atlantic flight right above it is available with Virgin Atlantic miles, but then also available with Delta miles. And again, all the transfer partners are shown. So you can see, for those of you who are watching, how these start to really stack together. Here's an American flight available with Alaska, American, and Qantas points, all three of them. And a lot of people might say, Qantas, I never even thought about Qantas. You know, there are three transfer partners, American Express, Capital One, and Citi, all transfer to Qantas. Sometimes it's not a great deal, but sometimes it's a very good deal. Here's a British Airways flight. We were talking about this earlier. This British Airways flight is available with Qantas miles or Alaska miles or American miles, and PointsPath is showing all of them. And by the way, we rank these in order of what we think is the best deal. So that's just to give you an idea of how the Pro extra programs work. We also have a points calendar, which this is again only available in Pro, which shows you the best points prices on all of our airlines 3 days before and 3 days after the date that you've chosen. And if you want to see that, you know, here's a JetBlue price 3 days earlier. That's only 17,200. I can click on that, and PointsPath will take me to that search then, and you can find it there. So we have that feature. We also have the ability to change your own, to set your own valuations. So you might say, well, Julian, I think American miles are worth more than you do. I don't want to, use American miles for less than 2 cents a mile. You can then go into your settings and change those valuations, and then our arrows will follow that.
Nice.
So you've got that and a lot of other cool features, but the best feature of Pro is our price alerts. So let's say you've got this, let's go back to, United flight. Well, let's find it. I'm going to try to find an expensive one here. Yeah, here we go. This United flight is 40,000 United miles. You might say, okay, that's all right, but I would like to get it for less, or at least I want to know if it drops. Or what I always say is I'm going to go ahead and book it for 40,000 miles. I'm going to keep tracking it. I want to keep checking it because with United miles, you can easily cancel and rebook for free. If with your pro membership, you can click this track price button. So now I'm tracking this flight with United Miles, and anytime it goes up or down, I'm going to get an email telling me that it just changed. I can also go in and set my settings so I can say, well, only tell me if it drops below 40,000, and then you'll only get an alert when it drops below 40,000. So now I can go into my tracking board here. Let me find the flight I just did. That was, I've got some others already set here. That's this New York London flight, right? This is the one I just tracked. You can see my target price, which is where I started, is 40,000 miles. I can again edit that if I say, I don't want to know if it doesn't drop below 35. I can edit that, and then the current price. And then for each of these flights, you'll get a little chart showing the history of that flight or whatever we have in our database. And then each time we track it, whether it went up or down, it'll still go on this chart as well. So you get all of those features with Pro. You can track up to 30 flights at a time with the Pro.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think that's really helpful for people because a lot of the times it's, oh, I'm going to wait for this date and I'm going to try to figure out, people's minds are, hey, I'm going to wait until X amount of days out, or I'm going to wait till a Tuesday because I saw this on Instagram, where you can just simplify it for yourself and say, I want to go to these destinations, right? I don't have to think through my head, okay, which one transfers to each one. And if you just keep it simple of, okay, my hub where I live, if I'm just doing a domestic flight, this is who the transfer partners are. Let me compare those and see. That makes it very easy. And I mean, like I was saying earlier, obviously I know this very well, but from using Qantas, usually I can know, okay, there's no way I'm going to pay that for that, and there's no fees. Luckily, Charlotte has a lot of availability for it. But if you don't know it, it just makes it very easy where it's transfer partners, who transfer there, right? And how can you use those? And I think that's where, as people get more acclimated to it and they go, well, I don't know if I want to book on, Virgin Atlantic. All I can, I just remember Richard Branson started that. And that's really all that I know about it versus this isn't just a different airline outside of those big five. Like once you understand that, hey, these are operated and are partners, and sometimes you're still flying on that same exact flight. That's where people's minds unlock and they're like, oh, this is what transferable currencies are and points. This is how to play it and understand, right, how to get the best value out of those.
That's exactly right. Right. And to follow on your example, right? If you are looking for a flight and you did want to use Qantas miles, or at least you wanted to be aware of what the availability was, you can track any of these American flights with Qantas miles, even if they're not currently available with Qantas miles. You can just pick an American flight here. Let me find one that's not available. All of these are available. Hold on. Where's an American one that's not available? Well, I don't see it on this particular search. They're all available with Qantas miles. But let's say that let's say this United flight, I wanted to track it with Air Canada miles. All I need to do is click on that pop-up, that same pop-up where I got and by the way, these pop-up, you click the little I under the 40,000, under the number of points, and then you get the other options where it says these are other programs that may eventually down the line be available for this flight with points. You can just track then Air Canada on that. And then now I'm tracking that same flight with both with both United miles and Air Canada miles. If that opens up with Air Canada miles, I'll get an email.
Okay. Okay. Great. No, that's very helpful. What about, because there's a lot of different, I think it's great, right? Everyone is now, there's more tools than there were prior, and which is great for people, but like what I guess differentiates you guys for just the common person who's wanting to get started in this hobby?
Yeah, you're 100% right. There's a lot of tools out there, and frankly, I think a lot of them are great. And I use them all myself when I want the right tool for the right job. I do like to say that most of those tools, you kind of have to know what you're doing when you get into them. Not that they're complicated, but the system is complicated, and they're really designed for people who already have a pretty good understanding of how this all works. We're trying to get to the folks who don't. We're
Mhm.
trying to get to the folks who say, I just give me the answer. I don't necessarily understand how all this works, but just show me all stacked on, this is the flight I want. And it often comes down to that is people say, yeah, okay, this other tool told me I can get to, London for, 20,000 miles, but I got to make two stops, or I got to, do an overnight in Dublin or whatever it might be. This is the flight I want. What is that available for? What
Mhm.
programs can I use? And can you let me know if it becomes available with the points I have? That's what we're trying to do. It's trying to really, really get to, this is the flight I want. This is how I want to go. How can I do it? And what's the best value? That's the difference between us and the others.
Yeah, no, I love that breakdown. And it, again, like you said at the very beginning, it's not making huge habit changes where it's just like, hey, how do we get someone with, to start riding a bike with training wheels versus telling them just to go down the Rocky Mountains. And that's
Yeah,
just,
right.
it's like that, but that's what you want to do. And then people will start to realize, and it's then understanding, okay, here's the transfer partners, here's the flexible currencies, right? And that's the whole part and, why we're here to help. So no,
Mhm.
that's a great breakdown. Are there anything else that's, well, I guess let me, because there was something that just came out just around like Google AI flight. So I don't, is that, how does that build into this? Does that impact anything or just kind of walk me through any of that?
Yeah, so Google AI Flights is a separate product. It's not part of Flights. It's a separate website and page, and they've only just started
Hmm.
letting people in on a beta standpoint. So we don't have any interaction with that. But what they did release, and we talked about this a little earlier, at the same time, was the ability to filter out basic economy flights, which had not existed in Google Flights up until literally, mid-August. Over a decade, people have been asking them to put that filter in, and it took them only took 10 years. But what's really great about that is that we knew that was coming, and we built PointsPath to accommodate it. So all PointsPath already handles basic economy versus main economy. So if you're searching in basic economy and you're using a program like Delta or JetBlue, which does offer award fares in basic economy and main economy, we're showing you the apples to apples comparison. So if you're looking at a basic economy cash price, you're seeing a basic economy points price for Delta or on JetBlue. If you're looking at a main economy price, you're seeing a main economy JetBlue or Delta price. So that is already all built into PointsPath. You don't have to do anything different other than install it and start using it.
Awesome. Thanks for clarifying that. I feel like that's going to be a question that some people have because they see that and they're like, "Oh, this is great," and just not understanding, exactly what that means. And I mean, a challenge sometimes that people will say is, "Oh, I got a basic economy ticket and then I couldn't bring this size bag or I didn't have this." And then it started to when you start to outweigh the overall cost, it's like, "Well, I had to pay for a seat, then I had to pay for a water, and I had to pay for the air in my section." So that's so I appreciate you clarifying that.
Yeah, I personally never book basic economy. I want the flexibility to
Yeah.
be able to change my ticket without penalty. I think the restrictions are just not worth it. And usually the buy up is not that much, $30, $40.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's worth it. Think about it this way. In the old days, you had to buy a fully refundable ticket to have that flexibility, which would have cost hundreds more, maybe $1,000. Now for 30 or $40, you could change your ticket anytime you want or cancel it or rebook it. I mean,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you do that? That's a no-brainer to me. And the same with points when they're available in main economy.
Yeah, 100%. Anything on the roadmap that you can talk about or exciting that listeners should be looking forward to?
Actually, yeah, we just released something else in August. That feature I was mentioning that's part of Pro, the price tracking alerts. It is one of our most popular features, as you might imagine. So we've introduced a lower priced budget plan that only has that. So
Okay.
all the other Pro features that I mentioned, the points count and all that, those are still exclusive to Pro, but you can get alerts. You can track flights in PointsPath for the low price alerts tier, which is currently priced at $35 a year, which is
Okay.
really kind of dirt cheap. It's like less than $3 a month. Pro is about $80 a year, so you're paying less than half for alerts. You can track up to 10 flights with the alerts plan. If you find that you're tracking more, then you can upgrade to Pro and get 30. But if you need more, but oftentimes those 10 flights are probably enough for the casual user, and that's why we introduced that new tier.
Awesome. Yeah. And that, I mean, just thinking of time going back and searching, right? And if you can just set it and forget it, if you have specific dates or a date range that you're trying to go somewhere or a month where then you can at least track that, like that's just, I think it's 100% worth the money. You're not having to do
Yeah.
all the mental gymnastics to to track across multiple platforms, go in and log in. It's just sent right to you.
Yeah, and again, this is, we're trying to save people time,
Hmm.
get them to help them use their miles more effectively without taking hours to have to dig through it because people don't have hours to dig through it, and I get it. Neither do I. I love doing this stuff, and I don't have the time to
Yeah.
dig through all this stuff. It takes a lot of time, so that's what we're trying to do is really help you save some time. When you do set a tracking alert, we check multiple times a day, so if that does pop open, you will know about it very quickly.
Yeah, no, I wish I had this when I was a road warrior like 8, 7 years ago when I was booking flights, traveling 4 or 5 times a week
Hmm.
for work. I wish I knew about this because that would have saved me exactly what you just said, time. Well, awesome, Julian. This was great. I really appreciate you coming on and providing a ton of value for our listeners and just doing a deep dive into this. I find just like you said on the front end, it's saving people time, showing them and just showing, hey, how do I do this and what are the specific ways to do it? So again, appreciate you coming on. Best place that our listeners can find you and if they want to get started.
Yeah, thank you for having me on and inviting me. Please, obviously, pointspath.com is where we are, all we live. We are on all the standard social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Threads, under PointsPath. Look for us at PointsPath. And by all means, send me an email, Julian at pointspath.com. I'm always happy to hear from folks, especially if you try the product and you have some feedback. Please send me an email. I'd love to know. We're always working on the product. We're always trying to improve it. So I'd love to hear any feedback you have.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And listeners, if you have any feedback and you send it directly to me, feel free to do that. And I'll send that over to Julian as well. And we will link everything that he just mentioned in the show notes. And if you're a first time listener here, make sure you give us a follow or subscribe. That way you don't miss out on any upcoming amazing episodes like this. Please share it with a family or friend. That's how we grow the show and continue to do these for you. As well as if you want to give us a 5-star review, I personally think Julian obviously deserves one. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. We will see you next week.